Welcome to Ending Coverage in Wireless Land. We're going to be covering some very important concepts. First of all, the fact that coverage is still important. We can't do away with it just because capacity is needed. We still need coverage where we need coverage. Secondly, coverage is not simple, and we'll talk about this as well. It's important to understand that coverage is the foundation of capacity. You certainly cannot have capacity in a given area if you don't have coverage in that area. And, of course, coverage is technical. So we'll go into several of the technical aspects related to coverage today. So the terminology related to power measurements include SNR. This is signal to noise ratio, and it's a comparison of the signal strength to the noise in the environment. Then there's RSSI, the received signal strength indicator, and dBm, decibels compared to milliwatts. Now, RSSI, technically speaking, is a relative value, but it's often used colloquially in common use as synonymous with dBm. So technically RSSI is defined one way, but it's commonly used to mean dBm. So for example, you'll hear people say the RSSI is negative 67. Well, what they mean is the signal strength is negative 67 dBm. A device driver may actually report an RSSI of, say, 80 when the signal strength is negative 67 dBm. But in common use, people have begun to use those interchangeably. So you have to understand how someone might be using RSSI. Are they using it in the technical, defined aspect of the term as according to the 802.11 standard, or are they just using it as a replacement for dBm? And of course, decibels to milliwatts is a comparison of decibels into milliwatts, or conversion of decibels to milliwatts, so that it's an absolute value. It's an absolute value. So basically 1 milliwatt equals 0 dBm, and you go from there. So therefore 3 dBm would be twice as much as 1 milliwatt, therefore it's 2 milliwatt, and so forth. Negative 3 dBm would be half as much, so it's 0.5 milliwatts, and so forth. It's important to understand that when we see negative dBm values, we're never talking about negative power. We're talking about less power, very, very low levels of power. So when we say that we're at neg 60 dBm, we're not saying that there's some negative level of power. We're saying there's a low positive level of power somewhere between 1 milliwatt and 0, and that's the key.